Good day to you. Today we begin our last scene of Act 1, and it is a doozy of a scene, as you say. So just to recap what we talked about in Acts 3 and Acts 4. Remember, we saw both people, Romeo and Juliet, and their friends/family, getting ready for the grand party at the Capulet house happening right now in scene 5. So Juliet knows that Paris is trying to woo her and court her in order to marry her, and Lady Capulet asks Juliet to please look at him tonight to see if you might love him. And Romeo and his friends are heading to the party, and Romeo expressed concern about the events of this evening leading to his untimely death, a little bit of foreshadowing. So here in scene 5, we are at a hall in the Capulet house at the party itself. Now, this is a very fast-paced, chaotic scene. If you were to see this on a play, in a play as it is meant to be seen, you would see a lot of people on stage, and each little piece of group of people, different things would be happening at different points on the stage. So the reading of this may be a little bit confusing just because it's meant to be seen, not read, but I will try to make it clear to you as we read through it. So the first people that we are going to see is a group of serving men who are running around trying to get things situated, get people served, all of that stuff, get everybody ready for the party, and then we're going to see Lord Capulet, who is going to be greeting guests as they enter. So that's the first part of the scene. You can probably visualize it as you are reading it. Just imagine everybody's running around like chickens with their head cut off. Ha ha! Delightful saying you have. So please pause the video now and read scene 5 to line 41. Great! You read scene 5 to line 41. So we see the servants at the start of the scene, and they're just talking about getting the food ready and everything. Little bit of comic relief because they're running around like idiots. And then we see Lord Capulet, and all of these people have entered the scene, right? The maskers, Capulet, his wife, Juliet, Dibble, all the guests and gentlemen and people at the party ready to have fun. And Capulet is greeting them all by saying, "Welcome, gentlemen, ladies, everybody start dancing." And he goes to talk to his cousin, the second Capulet is what you see there. That is Lord Capulet's cousin, also called Capulet, so he is two Capulets. So he goes to talk to his cousin on line 30 because he says, "For you and I are past our dancing days," meaning that they are too old to dance, right? And they start having this conversation, reminiscing on all of the times they used to wear masks to parties because they were wooing young women, but now they're too old to wear masks and they're too old to dance. So they're really just reminiscing and having a good time. In this next portion I'm going to have you read, you need to really visualize what is happening here. Romeo is going to be wandering around the party, and all of a sudden he's going to see Juliet. Now remember, up until this moment when he sees Juliet, he has been head over heels in love with Rosaline. But watch what happens when he notices Juliet across the dance floor. Then, as Romeo is looking at Juliet and thinking about her, Romeo is going to be spotted by somebody else. So I want you to see if you can figure out who spots Romeo and what he makes of that situation. So I would like you to continue reading to line 97. Please pause me now and read to line 97. Great, you read to line 97. Okay, so Romeo spots Juliet across the party, and this is where things start to get very, very interesting, because Romeo has one of his most famous lines on line 46. He says, "Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright." So he's saying Juliet is burning brighter than the torches, literal torches that are on fire. So basically what Romeo is saying here is, now how do you guys say it? Oh, she's hot, right? She is literally hotter than the torches that are burning, than the literal fire, right? That is one of his most famous lines ever written, all thanks to me. You are welcome, gentlemen. Good luck using that line on the ladies is all I will say. And then Romeo goes on. He's talking as he's looking at Juliet from across the room. And on line 54, he says, "Did my heart love till now, forswear its sight? For I ne'er saw true beauty till this night." So he's saying to himself, I don't think I've ever been in love until I just saw Juliet. I never saw anyone as beautiful as her. Talk about love at first sight, right? So he's falling head over heels with this girl, even though he's only just seen her. And now Rosalind, the girl that he was in love with, is completely put out of his mind. A little bit fickle in his love, eh? But then Romeo is spotted by no other than, dun dun dun, Tybalt. That angry, nasty Tybalt sees Romeo across the room and notices his voice and says, "Oh, this by his voice should be your Montague. Fetch me my rapier, boy." He says to his servant, "Go get me my rapier." And rapier is a sword, right? It's a short, pointy sword. "Go get me my rapier. What dares the slave come hither, covered with an antic face, to fleer and scorn at our solemnity? Now by the stock and honour of my kin, to strike him dead I hold it not a sin." So Tybalt plans to kill Romeo for crashing his uncle's party, right? Like I said, very hot-headed, that Tybalt. But Capulet sees Tybalt getting all up in arms and says to him, "Why? How now, kinsman, wherefore storm you so?" He's like, "Why are you so mad? Where are you going? What are you doing?" Right? He's like, "Calm down, what's happening?" And Tybalt shows him, he says, pointing to Romeo, "Uncle, this is a Montague, our foe." And he explains to his uncle, "I plan to go hurt him." And Capulet says, now, gentle cuz, let him alone." Line 69, "He bears him like a portly gentleman, and to say truth, Verona brags of him to be a virtuous and well-governed youth." So he says he's not harming anybody, and people around town say that he's virtuous and that he's well-behaved, right? So he says, take no note of him, let him be. He's not harming anybody. He's supposed to be a good boy. We'll just let him stay. And Capulet starts getting mad at Tybalt because Tybalt really does not want to put up with this. He's like, "Romeo has ruined my reputation. I need to go cut him down because he crashed the party." And Capulet gets very angry at Tybalt. And he says, "Don't you dare do a thing, I swear to you." And he's like basically yelling at him. Lines 87 through 93, where there's all those dashes, Capulet is so furious that he can't even get his words out. If your parents have ever been this mad at you, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where they're just so mad that they don't know what to say. Tybalt finally leaves, but when he leaves, he says this on line 96. "I will withdraw, but this intrusion shall, now seeming sweet, convert to bitterest gall." So he's saying, I will leave, but I promise you that this will not end well, right? So again, here we have a little bit of foreshadowing that something bad is going to happen, but also he's saying, I will get revenge on Romeo one way or another. Okay, in this next section, Romeo, while Tybalt and Lord Capulet have been having this conversation, Romeo has been making his way across the party towards Juliet. And in this next part I'm going to have you read, Romeo and Juliet are going to be speaking now face to face. So I would like you to please pause me now and read to line 136. Great, you read to line 136. Okay, so let's see what happens with these two lovebirds in this scene. Romeo says, as he's walking up to her, now you have to just imagine this. This is just so great on my part. He walks by casually and gently brushes Juliet's hand as he's passing by. And he says, oh, if I profane, meaning if I pollute or dirty, with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle fine is this. My lips to blushing pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss. So he's like, oh my gosh, I touched your hand. I'm so sorry. If I disgraced your hand or if I dirtied your hand, let me please have you forgive me with a tender kiss. A kiss to your hand. So he's very smooth with the ladies. Gentlemen, are you taking notes? Juliet being, of course, the intelligent young lady that she is, said, good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands, that pilgrim's hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy Palmer's kiss. She's like, oh, you don't need to actually touch your lips to mine, because this is holy Palmer's kiss. This is a holy kiss. If we just put our hands like this, then our hands are kissing. Well, Romeo says, have not saints lips and holy Palmers too? He's like, even people that pray with their hands, that kiss their hands together to pray, also have lips. And Juliet says, I, pilgrim, they have lips that they must use in prayer, right? So Romeo's trying to get her to kiss him, and Juliet is thwarting all of his advances. So she says, oh, but they don't use their lips to kiss, they use their lips to say their prayers. Blah, 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 prayer, 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 right? But eventually, Romeo wears her down, and he does end up kissing her. He says, well, you are a saint, so by me kissing you, you will take some of my sin away. So they kiss, and then Juliet's like, oh no, now I have your sins. And Romeo's like, oh no, I must take my sin back. And so he kisses her again to bring his sin back. Again, very smooth with the ladies, this Romeo. So then the nurse comes in and interrupts their smooch fest, and she says, Madam, your mother craves a word with you. So Juliet rushes off to go talk to her mother, and Romeo continues to ask, what is her mother? Who is her mother? And the nurse reveals that Juliet's mother is none other than Lady Capulet. And Romeo has not realized until this moment that this new woman he loves, Juliet, is a Capulet. And so he is very sad, and Benvolio comes in and he goes, away, be gone, the sport is at its best, it's time for us to leave. So they leave. Romeo is sad because now the new lady he's in love with is his sworn enemy. Capulet is saying goodbye to all of his guests. Now in this last section of the scene, Juliet is going to be talking to the nurse, because remember, Juliet does not yet know who Romeo is. He's just some stranger that she has now fallen quite infatuation with. So I want you to read the rest of scene 5. Go ahead and pause me now and finish the scene. Great, you have finished reading scene 5. Let's talk about what happened in the last few lines. So Juliet and the nurse are talking to one another, and Juliet is trying to be coy. She's not trying to be obvious by straight out asking, who is that dude over there that I was kissing? Instead, what she does is she starts asking the names of all the other guests. She's like, who is that? Who is that? Who is that? And then she gets to Romeo, right? And she says, when Juliet asks about Romeo, the nurse says, I don't know who he is. And Juliet on line 143 says, go ask his name. And then when the nurse goes away, she says, if he be married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed. Again here, Juliet says, I will die if he is married, and my wedding bed will be my grave. Another instance of foreshadowing that we have in this scene. Lots of foreshadowing here. The nurse comes back and says his name is Romeo and a Montague, the only son of your great enemy. And Juliet is, of course, devastated to find out that Romeo is a Montague. She says, my only love sprung from my only hate. And she is very sad. So everybody leaves the party very upset. And that, my dear friends, is the end of Act 1. Brilliant job, we have made it. It has been an absolute pleasure to walk you through Act 1. Unfortunately, I will not be able to stay to carry you on through the rest of the play. However, I've made a call to one of my friends who said that she was more than willing to stop by and finish the play with you. So I will bid you a final adieu. Make sure that you finish your Act 1 study guide and prepare for your quiz the following school day. I will see you all in another world.